Still I rise, Maya Angelou. My dear girls, before we begin, pause with me for a moment. Have you ever noticed how the world reacts when a woman refuses to bow, when she does not apologize for her confidence, when she does not shrink her voice, when she carries her wounds openly and still dares to smile? There is a particular discomfort society feels when a woman rises again and again after humiliation, after history, after silence. Today, we are not merely reading a poem, we are standing inside a declaration written not in anger alone, but in dignity, memory, laughter, and defiance. Today, we read Still I Rise. To understand Still I Rise, we must first understand the woman who wrote it, Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou was not born into comfort, she was born into contradiction. A black woman in a racially segregated America, a survivor of childhood trauma who chose language as survival, a woman whose silence once lasted for years and whose voice later shook the world. Angelou lived at the crossroads of race, gender, history, and memory. She did not write poetry to decorate pain. She wrote poetry to name it. Her writing emerges from African American history, from slavery, segregation, civil rights struggles. But it never remained trapped there. It travels, it speaks to women across cultures, nations, classrooms, kitchens, and campuses. Still I Rise is one of her most powerful poems because it does not beg for justice, it assumes survival. The poem appears in Angelou's 1978 collection And Still I Rise. The title itself already carries a challenge. Rise from what? From whose gaze? From which history? The poem responds to centuries of oppression, racial oppression, gendered humiliation, economic exploitation, and cultural silencing. Yet, Angelou does not narrate herself as a victim. She narrates herself as a presence that cannot be erased. This is feminist writing at its strongest, not fragile, not pleading, but unapologetically upright. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. Notice the calm confidence here. There is no shouting, there is no desperation. Angelou acknowledges history, but she refuses to let history define her. Who write history? Usually the powerful, usually men, usually colonizers, usually those who benefit from silence. Angelou knows this. She names it directly. You may tread me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Dust is everywhere. You step on it, you ignore it, and yet it returns. Dust becomes a metaphor for resilience, for the kind of survival that does not announce itself loudly, but never disappears. This is subtle resistance, quiet but unstoppable. Then comes one of the most radical moves in the poem. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Angelou directly confronts patriarchal discomfort. Why does a confident woman disturb society? Why does joy on a woman's face appear threatening? She speaks of walking like I have got oil wells pumping in my living room. This is not greed, this is ownership. For centuries, women, especially black women, were denied ownership of land, of bodies, of futures. Angelou reclaims all of it metaphorically. Her body is not ashamed. Her laughter is not muted. Her success is not hidden. This is feminist resistance through joy. One of the most powerful moments in the poem is how Angelou handles the female body. She refuses the male gaze. She refuses shame. Because I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. She does not seek permission to exist confidently. She does not soften herself for comfort. In feminist theory, this is crucial. Angelou reclaims the narrative of womanhood from object to subject. She speaks from the body, not about it. Midway through the poem, Angelou shifts from individual confidence to collective history. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. These lines transform the poem from personal affirmation into historical testimony. She rises not alone, she rises the generations behind her. This is Black feminist writing at its most profound, where personal survival is inseparable from communal memory. She does not forget the past, she carries it as fuel. Angelou repeats the phrase, I rise, again and again. This repetition is not decorative, it is political. Each repetition becomes an act of resistance, a chant, a refusal to be erased. In feminist literature, repetition often mirrors lived experience. Women must assert themselves repeatedly because silence is always waiting. I rise, become a mantra for survival. The poem ends not with reconciliation but with triumph. I rise, I rise, I rise. There is no request for acceptance, no explanation, no presence. This is what makes Still I Rise timeless. It does not belong to one classroom, one syllabus, or one generation. It belongs to every woman who has ever told to stay quiet. In our contemporary world, where women still negotiate visibly, safety, voice, and dignity, Still I Rise remains urgent. It speaks to girls learning to speak up, to women navigating workplaces, to students questioning history, to anyone rising after failure. This is not a poem of anger alone, it is a poem of becoming. My dear girls, Still I Rise teaches us something vital. Resistance does not always scream. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it walks confidently. Sometimes it simply refuses to disappear. When you read this poem, do not memorize it. Inhabit it. Because literature like this does not ask to be analyzed only, it asks to be lived. And remember, every time you stand tall in a world that expects you to bend, you're already rising.